How did you find that trip? That was, for some, it was to acclimate them to the political process. For others, it was another trip going back up to see what was going on. How did you see it in your trip up there?
Right. Well, this was my second time. I went about 10 years ago, so this was kind of a long hiatus for me. But, this annual trip that Jerry and Carl put on, they put it on through KHTS, and of course, our guys up there, Dante Acosta, Senator Scott Wilk, and everybody who participates in bringing it. But it's interesting to, go up there and kind of see how the mechanism works a little bit and get involved. And, and I wish more people would, because, we always have that, rolling of the eyes about politics and all this other stuff. And if you just stay apathetic and you just kind of see, the way I look at it, if you don't take aggressive action, you don't have the right to complain.
Especially the seniors right now, because I think no matter what, across the board with Medicare, Medicaid, possibly being affected in the near future, they need to stand up and say what their needs are.
Right, because you don't know what's going on. I mean, who watches C-SPAN, right, when they're all doing their thing sometime late at night or whatever, because they do televise a lot of the proceedings and such. But, again, you have no idea unless you pay attention of what's percolating on the Hill up there, as far as what bills are being introduced, what laws are coming into play that could really adversely affect seniors, businesses, everybody. So you really need to pay attention.
Yeah, and like you said, don't complain later down the line when something has occurred and you haven't been involved. The seniors should stand up for the rights. And of all the people out there, they're the ones who have the time and can get an understanding of the material that is out there and what needs to be done to move laws forward. And we have the political ears up there to hear what we're saying. So
not only that, but if we get, one of my first questions always, especially when there's a bill or something being introduced that has to do with seniors, is have you gotten ARP involved? Have you gotten some of these other senior advocacy groups involved? Because if you think about it, there's a lot of voting demographics in our seniors, and so when bills come along, and not only voting, and making sure you have your representatives up there that are looking out for your best interest, because when re-election time comes around, the seniors have the power of the vote, and if they get out there and they really pay attention to what's going on, in all the areas that you just mentioned, and some of the other areas, that I was focusing on that has to do with home care and caring for seniors and stuff. But it's like, find out what's going on, what bills are being introduced, who authored that bill, who's the senator or the assemblyman or legislator who introduced that bill, and what are their ulterior motives, and is it going to adversely affect their constituents? So now when it comes for re-election, we have the power of the vote to talk back. But to really get up there in the embryonic stage of when these bills are in committee and when they're being discussed, and what are the ramifications if it is passed into law, those are all important things to keep your eye on.
This ulterior motive stuff is what we call politics. And that's a sad part of what goes on. It just gets you a little bit upset that sometimes they're not seeking the best interest of the individuals they're trying to move a bill forward for, and especially our seniors. I think we have a battle on our hands, and I think we should be outspoken about everything that is now going on up there. But you had the opportunity to see this process that takes place up there, and you had the opportunity to talk with the people who are part of that process. What is your impression of how this trip went, but also the education that you got from it in terms of your own personal motivation?
Well, I think that the biggest thing, and it wasn't a big epiphany for me, but there's so many backroom deals that go. A lot of times you can't pay attention to just the headliner with a bill, because then you've got, well, put this in it and I'll vote for it, or do this and I'll vote for it. So you think that a bill or a law that's coming into play is a good thing, but you've got all these little ancillary things that are happening with that bill that aren't so good.
That's right.
So when you read a proposed bill, is read
between the lines
and find out is anybody putting anything else into it? Are they omitting anything from it? Just so that because again, it's like, well, if you want my vote, you've got to do this, this, or this, or if you want my vote, you got to vote for my bill over here, which may adversely affect a lot of people. So again, like you said, you have to read the fine print, find out what the bill includes. Don't just look at the headliner of the bill. Don't look at just the stuff they're parading out there to get your confidence in what's going on because there might be something you're not aware of. But the biggest thing I realized talking to a couple of the representatives, and I can get into it a little bit later, and I think that's what's missing in our country altogether is the spirit of compromise, the spirit of just intelligent conversation, debate, look at it from the other person's point of view.
That's right.
And actually that was the phrase that I'm sure I didn't coin it. I'm not the first to say it, but when we were talking to one of the representatives and I acknowledged what they thought were issues, and I used the term, well, in the spirit of compromise, and then I kind of approached my idea of how to maybe, tweak the bill or some of the language. And he really grabbed onto that phrase because it's missing, as we can see with the divided country that we have and the Facebook and social media wars going on, and people aren't even talking with each other anymore. There's just so much hatred and accusations, and it's really disheartening. So that's the biggest thing I took away from that. When I started talking about the spirit of compromise, their eyes just sort of, opened and said,
What's that?
Yeah,
What's that?
That is sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a sad, but frankly speaking though, Miles, some of the seniors in this community and all over are saying, hey, this system is skewed. It's skewed toward the special interests and lobbyists. What was your impression about their role in how laws are put through? Do you feel, or did any of the legislators say anything to you that, I hear your voice, but guess what? I hear the voice of the people who donate to my campaign as well. How did that appearance come through to you?
Well, being there for less than 36 hours, we didn't get into too many of the meat and potatoes aspect of it. But, but basically, what I picked up,
wanted some gravy on that.
Is again, in my conversations with some of the folks that we met with, is everybody had a point of view. You really have to look at it from the other angle. And what I found, especially with some of the issues that we were discussing for home care, they always put it with an us against them, the labor versus the business owner versus the senior versus the consumer versus the end user. And it's like, it can't be an us against them attitude when you're passing legislation. Who does it affect? Who does it benefit? Who does it hurt? And it's the type of thing where I don't think people sit in rooms and say, well, let's pass some really crappy bills to hurt everybody.
Are you sure?
But I think they have their best interests in mind, and they don't care who they hurt to get what they want.
Now,
Well, there again is that, where is that spirit of compromise? That is an incredible statement or phrase. It really is.
Yeah.
Because it really makes you stop and think.
Is it gone?
Yeah.
Now,
It is.
Miles, you and I played baseball. We played organized baseball with professional people, and we had to play as a team. And that's how I look at it up there in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C. It's a team. And on a team, if you didn't bunt and missed a sign, didn't sacrifice, you were done. If you didn't take that base, or if you didn't steal the sign from the catcher when you were standing on second, you were in trouble, weren't you? You had to play as a team. And that was a part of compromising to assure, your average was okay, and people were going up to the major leagues, but that was the team effort. And it was, in a way, a compromise for us when we played to make the team move forward. That doesn't seem to happen, does it?
Well, and in the words of one philosopher, of Mr. Spock from Star Trek, I don't know, but he said something in a movie once. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And so that's always an approach to look at as well.
That's true.
If something's just going to benefit the elite or a handful of people, but by and large the majority aren't benefited, well, then you've got to look at it from that angle as well, because the needs of the many certainly do outweigh the needs of the few. So, and when you look at our silver tsunami and our seniors and the folks that are growing old, and 10,000 approximately 65 and older each day are celebrating their 65th birthday.
That's right.
So the needs of the many really does rest in our senior population.
And their votes.
Yeah, and their votes.
But the few, it depends on the money.
Right.
So that's a balance there, isn't it? And that's a difficult balance to achieve when you see the few win and the many get hurt by
But
it.
how many, the power of our seniors, my goodness, during this last friendly election that we just had. I mean, how many times did you see a senior interviewed? When were the last time you heard the pundits talking to, the representative from ARP or from our senior advocacy groups and how the senior, you're always hearing about Social Security, you're always hearing about Medicaid, Medicare, and all these things. But have you ever seen a senior interviewed on the news? Has a political pundit ever talked to a representative from one of the larger senior advocacy groups? They're totally ignored. It's like the invisible generation, and that's such a powerful group of demographics. If they were to step up and take charge of their own interests, it'd be very powerful.
It would. And, as a senior, when I turned 65, I get to be on Medicare, don't I? Ooh, how exciting, because you hear so much about this Medicare. And I was on Medicare. But, there are seniors now who are getting older. The age cap is getting higher. And we have more seniors, like we were saying earlier. It's a large group. And as seniors, we need to pay more attention to what's going on.
Seniors, that the whole demographic is growing as well, because, they keep saying, 55 is the new 75. Well, I've got my ARP card, so I guess technically I'm a senior because I've gotten my ARP card in the mail. I hear they're actually sending them out when you turn 50 these days, but when I turned 55, I got my card in the mail. And so again, you look at the demographics of our senior population, it's growing exponentially, and I don't think they use their voice properly. I don't think they show, and they contact their legislators and say, hey, you know what? We're going to rally, and you're not going to be reelected because what you're doing is adversely affecting us, affecting our future, affecting our quality of life, affecting our benefits that we've paid into all of our life. So guess what, Snappy? You don't help us defeat this bill, it'll be your last term.
The Achilles heel, though, for the whole system that the seniors should take advantage for in this last election, of all the eligible voters that were out there, only 11 to 12% voted. And if the senior population is 20 to 25%, and we all vote, and maybe in the same way, that carries a lot of weight. 12% and we're 25%, we're going to push a lot of things through. The Achilles heel that we should take advantage of is the numbers. Let's get the numbers out. But how, Miles, do you raise the voice of the seniors? How do you say this is important? Because some of them will say, hey, yeah, it's really important, but they don't go out and vote.
Well, ask them, educate them, let them know that they do have power, because if, as you said, if they all come out in mass to vote, you know what, there's a new sheriff in town. Because just the sheer numbers alone, with the apathetic turnout that we have with, most of our voters, if the seniors start to stand up for their own interests and mobilize, it'd be a powerful movement.
It would. And, Gene and I have been talking about our city needs to have a committee on aging. We really do. And we do not have that element in our city.
And it's profound, the needs for it. I mean, we have a great senior center that has a lot of services, but
there's a committee on aging there, the board of the senior center.
That's the board.
Yes,
that's the name of it.
That's that board.
But you're right. But there's not a dedicated group that's looking out for the
within the
best
city
interests.
power structure.
Right.
And there should be.
And there are other cities throughout the United States, let alone in LA County, that have Department of Aging. We just have to formulate that, see how much it might cost, and decide what we want to have in it. Because you already know, and I already know, the needs are huge. But people, they will call the senior center, they'll call me. I don't know the answer. We have to centralize that to have one phone number and one place where people can go to get advice, opinions, and help with their loved ones or themselves.
Well, and you have a lot of very able, smart, wise seniors who are retired and looking for things to do. I mean, I serve on a couple committees at our senior center right now where they're, it's comprised of retired seniors, and they're sharp and bright. And so, I mean, if we were to form some sort of, as you said, Barbara, a power structure, a portion of our city government of a committee on aging, I'm sure there's a lot of seniors that would step up and chair that committee,
Absolutely.
get involved, and then it's just a matter of education, reaching out to the seniors, reminding them that they have that vote, and as a unit, they could be very, very powerful. I mean, just in Santa Clarita alone, when our city councilmen come up for re-election, and the city councils are out, they're out there,
That's right.
campaigning. I don't know how many times they come to the senior center or talk to our senior population in Santa Clarita, but I tell you what, if there was a committee on aging, if there was somebody or a group of folks running point and educating our seniors and really dissecting what the agenda of the candidates are, it would be a very powerful movement.
We
That's
can
right.
call it the Gray Brigade.
The what?
Gray
The
Brigade.
Gray Brigade.
Or the Golden Girls and Boys.
Yeah.
Something.
But,
it
Well,
doesn't
look-
have to be Democratic. It doesn't have to be Republican.
No.
No, absolutely
We have our
bipartisan.
we have our focus on what the needs are of the seniors, and we move forward with that.
And we've already taken I mean, if you look at our city council now, I mean, we've got people there that are very sensitive to seniors' needs. I mean, you've got, Bob Keller, you've got Marsha McLean, you've got Cameron Smythe, I mean, they all are
Almost
very-
all seniors.
Well, they're all seniors, but I mean, they've
Well,
proven
Cameron's pretty young.
Well, yeah, but they've proven their sensitivity for seniors in the past.
Absolutely.
I mean, they've walked the walk. So again, they probably helped formulate that in some way. I mean, but that remains to be
Well,
seen.
the other thing too is Dante Acosta and Scott Wilk could both be involved in getting something like that set up. I mean,
Well,
they're a
they're at a
representative.
state level, though, and
Well, that's
it'd be great
true.
to do it right here,
I
Barbara.
know, I know, but they live in our community. That's what
And they're
I'm getting
getting
at.
older too.
That's right. They
Yeah,
are.
but I agree with Gene in that, obviously Scott and Dante, they have a huge area other than Santa Clarita.
That's true.
But right here, our homegrown city council, and they're the ones that
But
really.
even Cameron has been up a higher
Right.
level too.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's the mayor now, and let's get something started.
Yeah, and out of the three I mentioned, I forgot to mention Lorraine West and also, Bill Miranda, our newest city councilman. I mean, they're all, I mean, it's there for the approaching. It's there for, I mean, if somebody wanted to run with that and you put that out there to some of our retired seniors that are willing to serve on that capacity, again, I believe it could be very, very powerful.
I think so too. We have a large Friendly Valley contingency. I
Absolutely,
mean,
yeah.
that place is enormous. And I think it looks like we need to take a break, doesn't it? We're speaking with Miles McNamara of Comfort Keepers in Home Care. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.